For Browns rookie Shedeur Sanders, everyone has something to say, whether he opens his mouth or not. That's just the reality. I personally have no problem with him. What people should be talking about is the Browns' overall draft class and how impressive it's been. That tweet came from Jordan Schultz of the Schultz Report, NFL insider and host of the Schultz Report. Jordan joins us right now, brother. We appreciate your time. Thanks for hanging out with us. You tweeted that Browns observation, which, by the way, you're right, 1,000%. That entire rookie class looks great. Now that we know that Flacco's been traded, how does Shedeur impact any of this conversation?
He'll be the quarterback too, Jason. He'll have an opportunity to back him up, Dillon Gabriel, and really learn the system. And I think one of the things that was lost throughout the draft conversation with Shedeur was that he's a football savant. And one of the things that I'm interested in, most definitely as a football fan, first and foremost, is when he gets the opportunity. I don't know when that's going to be. I know they're pretty committed to Gabriel right now. He looked good, certainly last week. But when Shedeur gets the opportunity, I think he's going to surprise a lot of people with how NFL ready he is from a mental standpoint. And what I mean by that is when you talk to evaluators throughout the pre-draft process, even the guys that weren't convinced that Shedeur is going to be a bona fide starting quarterback, the thing you kept hearing was how smart he was, how much being around and entrenched in football his whole life has paid off. So at some point he will get the opportunity. I don't know if it's this season, but at some point he will.
So sticking on the Browns quarterback room, we are about a year removed from Deshaun Watson's Achilles tear. Where does he fit in this Browns quarterback discussion?
I think with Deshaun, he's obviously been injured a ton, and he's had a series of significant injuries. So right now, I would say the organization is pretty committed to Dillon Gabriel in the sense that they drafted him in the third round. And what they like about him is that he plays on time, he plays in the pocket, and he's got a very, very quick release, quick trigger. And one of the things that people said about Dillon Gabriel coming out was he can overcome maybe some of the physical limitations because of what he does, because of how quick his release is, because of how much he anticipates as a thrower. And going back to your question about Deshaun, I don't obviously see him playing this season there. They have an opportunity after this season to potentially move on. I don't know if they will, but right now I would say the organization is pretty committed to Gabriel, and at some point, I think Sanders will get an opportunity again. I just don't know when.
That's what's interesting to me, Jordan. Before we move on to there are other things going on in the NFL, but let's be honest for a second. Like the easy answers here: Dillon goes out, sucks. Easy answer. Dillon goes out and is epic, looks like a Hall of Famer. Easy answer. What if Dillon just comes out and plays pretty well? Like at some point, does Dillon playing pretty well just justify keeping him in and not taking a look at Shedeur? Or is there some sort of like line in the sand for what the Browns are looking for?
The Browns are in a really interesting position in that I think they felt and hoped, Jason, that they would be competitive this season. And you talked about the rookies. They really hit on Mason Graham from Michigan. They really hit on Quinshon Judkins, and they really hit on Harold Fenton. A lot of these rookies are contributing and playing already. At some point, if you're Kevin Stefanski, who's a former coach of the year, you have to be competitive and start winning games. We did not see that last season, obviously. We have not seen that so far this season with the exception of the Green Bay game. And I don't know what's going to happen with Gabriel. I think it's pretty realistic to assume he plays adequately enough to retain that job throughout most of the season, if not all. Them trading Joe Flacco also tells us that, they feel pretty good about where Shedeur Sanders is at as the backup. Because obviously in the game last weekend, he was the 3. They trade Flacco. Now he's the 2. That has to signify to us as Browns fans, or in addition to Browns fans, that they feel pretty good about him. I can tell you, too, that throughout training camp, one of the things that stood out with Shedeur was, again, how intelligent and how quick he was to learn the playbook. And, we talk a lot about the Browns defense and Jim Schwartz, and as good as that defense is, it's not a very complicated defense. there's a lot that goes in to the Kevin Stefanski offense. And Shedeur is going to learn that and probably faster than most rookies. So I would love to see him selfishly, just as a football fan, sooner than later. But if Dillon Gabriel continues to play well or adequate, it's going to be his job.
So Joe Flacco to Cincinnati, one of the first pins of the trade deadline chaos to fall. So what comes next? Look at the Chargers. Rashawn Slater gets hurt in training camp. Joe Alt's banged up. Najee Harris gets the Achilles tear. Now Omarion Hampton is on IR. And this is a Chargers team that wants to run the football. So who could potentially be on the market for the Chargers to trade for at the running back position?
So they signed Naheem Hines yesterday. They have Kamani Vidal and Hassan Haskins. What they'll do this week is they'll see exactly how those guys look. And they also, you mentioned the offensive line, they've been decimated from an offensive line standpoint. As well as Hampton had played before the injury, a lot of that was on him because the injuries to the offensive line, Slater and Alt, have been really catastrophic. And it's also a team that looked a lot different the last 2 weeks than they did the first 3 weeks. Running back, fortunately, is one of the easier positions. If you need a running back, you can usually go out and get a running back. And I don't know who it's going to be. And I think they would like to stay in-house with the two they have. And then Hines, I think they would like to weather the storm. If they don't, they'll absolutely go out and try to get someone. But I'm not there yet to say, oh, this guy's available, this guy's available. For example, you saw a lot of Breece Hall trade rumors in the offseason. Breece Hall is not getting traded. And also the other thing, too, is if you're the Chargers, you're going to have to figure out how much you'd want to give up for a temporary, running back, because you have a terrific young one in Omarion Hampton, who we hope is back in a month.
All right, so let's look at the Cowboys then. They traded away Micah. Now they need help on the defensive side of the ball. Would you be surprised to see Jerry try and do something at the trade deadline, like a Trey Hendrickson or anybody else, to try and come in and help this defense?
I don't think it'd be Hendrickson, Jason. And as bad as that defense has played, they did look a lot better against the Jets. They'd still need another pass rusher. And there's a lot of onus right now, a lot of pressure on Matt Eberflus, the defensive coordinator. And you talk about Jerry Jones and how much he runs the show and how excited he is about 2-2-1. You saw his gesture at the Jets game. I don't know what that was. He said it was misinterpreted. The Cowboys, to me, would be a good candidate at some point here in the next 2-3 weeks to potentially make a move for a pass rusher. I don't think it's Trey Hendrickson. It wouldn't be someone of that stature or someone who's getting paid that much money. But the Cowboys certainly could be in the mix. I think Washington's another team that could potentially go out and get a pass rusher. This is the stretch of the season now, especially with the trade deadline being moved a week back, where you could start to see a lot of action. We've already seen a couple trades this week. Baltimore traded a pass rusher to the Chargers. There will be more action. You just need to see which teams are essentially willing to move on from one, and also which teams are going to be competitive or not competitive enough to make a decision, with the trade.
And the Cowboys defense needs some help badly,
very
badly. Let's focus on. It's rough. But let's glass half full this thing. Let's talk about a good defense. The Jags defense, which to me kind of came out of nowhere as one of the best units in the National Football League, has the league, the national media, sports fans as a whole finally caught on to how good the Jags are?
I don't know. I don't think people have. I don't think people realize how good they are.
Are you fully buying into it?
I am. Because so they're 4-1. It's not just the record. It's the fact that, first of all, Trevor Lawrence, we've been waiting for so long to see him morph into whatever it is we thought he would be coming out of Clemson, and we kept hearing generational quarterback, the guy's a superstar. And he's had a lot of ups, he's had downs, but now he gets Liam Cohen, and that's the key. Liam Cohen did wonders for Will Levis at Kentucky. He did a lot with Baker Mayfield at Tampa, and now he's doing the same thing for Trevor Lawrence. But defensively, I think we all knew this would be a top 5, top 10 unit. We had Eric Armstead on our show last week, their standout defensive tackle. And one of the things that he said that struck me was we have a lot of young dudes in this locker room, but he didn't mean players. He was saying first year head coach, first year DC, first year OC, first year general manager. All of that creates hunger. So Jacksonville I think they're a very good team. The crazy thing to me is that they still haven't really gotten Travis Hunter or Brian Thomas Jr. going. When that happens, that team to me is going to be a real threat in the AFC. I know they beat the Chiefs. I still think the Chiefs are the team to beat. Call me crazy, but until you really knock them off, there's a long season. But what they've done, Jacksonville, is really impressive. But to answer your question, I still don't think people are giving them enough credit.